President Trump rejected talk of a rift in the Republican Party today and instead said there is great unity. He dismissed harsh criticism of himself by Republican Senators Bob Corker and Jeff Flake and said they're not running for re-election because they couldn't win. Mr. Trump spoke as he left Washington for a GOP fundraising event in Dallas. He complained the news media make him seem more uncivil than he is.
You know, people don't understand. I went to an Ivy League college. I was a nice student. I did very well. I'm a very intelligent person. The fact is, I really believe the press creates a different image of Donald Trump than the real person.
Meanwhile, Senator Flake had more to say about the president. He invoked the demagoguery of Wisconsin Senator Joe McCarthy, who infamously led a communist witch hunt in the 1950s and who warned you can't continue to just remain silent.
I hope that we're reaching a tipping point where my colleagues and every elected official will say, we can't go on this way. These politics, how can we explain to our kids that we are countenancing this kind of behavior from the top?
Republican Senate leaders tried again today to put the public feuding aside and focus instead on tax reform. We'll return to the GOP dispute right after the news summary. An influential moderate in Texas Republican ranks is stepping down as Speaker of the State House of Representatives. Joe Straus announced today that he won't run for re-election next year, citing growing political divisions. He had helped to block conservative initiatives such as the so-called bathroom bill aimed at transgender students. The president today also focused on a new revelation about a collection of research on his possible ties to Russia. The Washington Post and others reported that Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Committee helped to fund the dossier. Mr. Trump called it a disgrace.
This was the Democrats coming up with an excuse for losing an election. They lost it very badly and very easily. I mean, you look at the votes. It was 306 to what, 223 or something. They lost it by a lot. They didn't know what to say, so they made up the whole Russia hoax.
Most political campaigns do opposition research. The Trump dossier alleges that the Russians had compromising and salacious information on the candidate. He has insisted that it is all false. A pregnant teenager who sparked new debate about undocumented immigrants has had an abortion in Texas. Her lawyers confirmed it today. She's been in custody since September, but federal officials had refused her request for an abortion. A federal appeals court ruled in her favor yesterday. The sentencing hearing of Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl opened today at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He has pleaded guilty to leaving his post in Afghanistan in 2009. The Taliban held him 5 years before agreeing to a prisoner swap. Bergdahl could get life in military prison for desertion and misbehavior before the enemy. The hearing could last several days. Fears of violence built in Kenya today ahead of tomorrow's repeat presidential election. The opposition says the vote is rigged and should be delayed, but Kenya's Supreme Court declined to hear appeals amid talks of judges being intimidated. Protesters burned tires, blocked roads, and clashed with police in several cities. In Nairobi, their leader, Raila Odinga, urged followers to become a resistance movement.
Do not participate in any way in the sham election. Convince your friends, neighbors, and everyone else not to participate. We are aware that the bloodthirsty regime is planning to use every excuse to massacre our people.
President Uhuru Kenyatta won the initial vote in August, but election officials cited irregularities and nullified the result. Today, Kenyatta insisted that the rerun will go forward. The U.S. State Department has now warned that both sides may be undermining Kenya's election system. Back in this country, the Transportation Security Administration says that all passengers on flights to the U.S. will be subject to new security screenings. The new measures range from interviews to stricter search searches of passengers and luggage. Those rules apply both to American citizens and to foreigners. A warning today about American Airlines. The NAACP cites what it calls, quote, a pattern of disturbing incidents of discrimination against black passengers, and they should be on alert. The company insists that it will not tolerate discrimination of any kind. And on Wall Street today, disappointing quarterly earnings triggered a sell-off. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 112 points to close at 23,329. The Nasdaq fell 34, and the S&P 500 slipped 12. All three indexes were down 0.5%. And rock and roll pioneer Fats Domino has died. He passed away early Tuesday in New Orleans. He signed his first record contract in 1949 and had a string of hits during the 50s and early 60s, including Blueberry Hill and Ain't That a Shame.
You made me cry when you said goodbye. Ain't that a shame? My tears feel like rain. Ain't that a shame? You're the one to blame.
Ultimately, he sold more than 110 million records and was one of the first 10 honorees inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Fats Domino was 89 years old.